Hello, we are Team 1, Data Science for Operations and Planning at Durham Public Schools. My name is Alex Barroso, and my teammate is Davo Potdar. So, our project works with Durham Public Schools by analyzing socioeconomic status across Durham and tying the socioeconomic status analysis with Durham Public School students. So, the challenge facing DPS now is that data that has been used to assess socioeconomic status in the past has proven to be unreliable in painting a clear picture of SES across Durham. So, for example, census data has proven to be too aggregated, income data is relatively inaccurate, and free and reduced lunch status has also become inaccurate in how it has been changed so that everyone can apply for reduced lunch regardless of income. So our project takes a more granular approach in looking at Durham land parcel data, specifically the property values of houses and residencies across Durham. So research has shown that the value of a student's house has a direct positive correlation with the academic achievement of that student. And so this is a fundamental aspect of our project that property value gives us a granular, unaggregated, and accurate proxy for socioeconomic status that we can then use for our data analysis. So a look at the data we used Durham Open Parcel Data, which is a data set including all parcels that make up Durham County, along with their respective property values. We also looked at census data, which allowed us to get rent values for residencies such as apartments, because we wanted a specific way to analyze large complexes containing many families to go along with our general analysis of property value. Or in the case of multifamily complexes, the property value divided by the number of families living there. The final data set we used came from our project lead, which contained the school boundary information for all of our parcels. So by using all three of these data sets, we can have our parcel, their property value, their rent value if they have any, and then their respective census geographies and the school planning unit geographies. So some background about land geography. We aggregated our data using census geographies and school boundary geographies. For our census geographies, we aggregated by tracts, which usually hold multiple neighborhoods and are occupied by around 4,000 people. We aggregated by block groups, which usually hold around one neighborhood and are occupied by around 1,000 people. And then blocks, which are around the size of your average city block. And then we also aggregated by school geographies, specifically planning units, which are created by DPS themselves and do not overlay with census geographies. So, as I stated before, we have two proxies for socioeconomic status depending on our housing type. All parcels received an analysis concerning their unit value, which is their property value per dwelling unit. But for multifamily homes, specifically apartments and condos, we chose to further analyze their average rent, which we got from our census data. To the right, you can see one of the possible outcomes for our analysis that can be used by DPS, which is a heat map of average property value of single family homes aggregated by census tract. So, this is one of the outcomes that we use to generate using our dashboard, which we'll talk about later. So, our project overview. Once we had gotten familiar with our data sets and chose what we wanted to analyze, we could then move on to the main deliverable of our project, which is an interactive data dashboard that can be used by DPS so that they can see if their current districting and resource allocation aligns with our socioeconomic analysis of Durham. So the bulk of this project lies in creating a single script that can maneuver this data pipeline. So we begin with our Durham open parcel data, joined with our census data that contains the rents for our multifamily housing, then join it with the parcels from Durham Public Schools that contain our school boundaries and student information, and then joining it with a geodatabase with geoshapes, which contained all the polygons for our census geographies and our school boundary geographies. After all these joins, we could then get our master data set, which we could then aggregate using our geographies and then using property value and rent value. And then finally, we can export this master data set to our data dashboard. A look at the aggregations that we did. We use unit value as our main aggregation, which is property value divided by the number of dwelling units. And we also use rent data for blocks and block groups and tracts, which we had available through the census data. So you can see a snippet of our master data set here. We have the parcel ID, its unit value, and then the average unit value of all the different geographies of that parcel. For this snippet, we only have planning unit included, but we would have the average unit value for all the census geographies as well. And then we have additional geographies of rent value, which we have available for tracts and block groups through the census data. So here's a screenshot of our data dashboard. You can see all the different layers and geographies on the left and the map of Durham County on the right. Each layer has information such as average rent value, number of home units, which DPS can use to analyze the needs of students and allocate resources more equitably. So, for example, you can look at the average home value, which is, in the case of the map on the right here, is overlaid by census tracts. So the darker black lines are still school districts. The lighter lines that are colored in by various shades of red are census tracts. So the darker the red, the more expensive the average home value is in that specific tract. You can also look at rent value. This map shows the average rent value by census tracts. Interestingly, this looks like an inversion of the previous map with areas of darker right closer to downtown and the suburbs. This highlights one of the difficulties with this kind of data analysis in that socioeconomic status indicators vary significantly based on whether the unit is a single family home or part of an apartment complex. And so DPS planning units can provide smaller areas than school districts, so we can get a more targeted analysis that can account for some of the discrepancies between single family homes and multifamily homes. And so this map shows DPS planning units overlaid by average house value. And yeah, thank you.